Well, Jesse, are you ready for rapid fire?
I am ready. After my incredible draft that's going to beat your team, I am ready to now transition into some rapid fire.
Yep. All right. So, college football writers Stuart Mandel and Bruce Feldman of The Athletic each did their own lists of the top 25 college football's coaches in the country. Marcus Freeman is not on either of those lists. Fair or foul?
I'm going to say that that is actually pretty fair in my eyes, and I'll say that because this is Marcus Freeman's only his second season as a head coach, and last year he was again he was 8-4, right? So I mean overall, what is there to say? A guy was his first year head coach. I don't think he was horrible last year, but I don't think that he could have obviously done better. And so yeah, considering the college landscape, considering this is only his second year as a head coach and what the program accomplished last year, I think that that's totally fair for right now.
I completely agree because they were 8-4 in the regular season. They won a bowl game, so they went 9-4. But again, like it's not even like okay, yeah, they lost to Ohio State, they lost to USC, but we know who they lost to. You can't lose at home to Marshall and to Stanford and be considered top 25. I mean, he's got things going in the right direction. Recruiting is a big part of it, like so I think that's going to help him down the road. But for right now, there's no way you can include him in the list of top 25. Brian Kelly, by the way, was in the top 10, I think, in both of these lists. Of course, they were both very impressed with what Brian Kelly did in his first season at LSU. After that turned into a dumpster fire 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with where he is on that list either, considering, what he did at Notre Dame over his last 4 to 5 seasons, what he did in that first season at LSU, considering, the conference that they play in and some of the teams that they beat. Whether you like him or not, Brian Kelly's biggest strength is he is a good coach. That if you separate everything else out of it, he is a very good coach. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. That's that. Yeah. And, again, just like what I said and what like Anthony is saying, you can't lose to Marshall and Stanford and be considered among the top 25. A couple years from now, he very well could be, but you got to be better than 8-4, 9-4 in your first season to be in that company. Fill in the blank, kind of along the same lines. It's blank that for the second season in a row, Notre Dame's over under total in Vegas is 8.5 wins.
For me, that list is fitting because they won 8 games last season, and then coming up this season, it's not like their schedule it has room for potentially 3 losses, right? Because what you're saying is at 8.5, are they going to get 9? Or are they going to be at 8 wins overall? And Clemson is going to be tough. USC is going to be tough. Ohio State's going to be tough. I mean, that's 3 games already. And last year that they proved that they couldn't take care of business outside of the big games, right? Losing to Marshall and Stanford. And so based on that, based on history and last season, there's every indication that they could drop a game that they're not supposed to drop on top of, those games that are already kind of 50-50 of Ohio State, Clemson, and USC. So I think 8.5 is a very fitting number. I'm going to say that they're going to be over that. I think they're at the 9-10 mark next season. I personally would have set it at 9.5. But Vegas knows more than me. But I think 8.5 is fitting.
See, that's like last year. I think Vince and I, and maybe you as well, we railed on the whole 8.5. Are you kidding? What are you seeing? What are you not seeing? How are you disrespecting him? Blah blah blah. Well, what happened? 8-4. It proved to be Vegas got it exactly right. They sucked a bunch of money from Notre Dame people who threw down money on that, betting the over because there was no way they were going to be under. And then again, they go 8-4. And again, this is regular season total. So like the 9th win in the bowl game doesn't matter. But here they are. And it's the exact thing that we were just talking about. When you have the stain of losing, and not just the fact that you lost to Marshall, but you lost at home to Marshall in your home opener, the very first game Marcus Freeman coached at Notre Dame Stadium, and you laid a complete egg against a horrible Stanford team as well. And again, at home. And when you have that kind of stain, and you also have Ohio State, Clemson, and USC on the schedule, it is very easy to see why they would set it at 8.5. And quite honestly, like you said, you would set it at 9.5. I think 8.5 is completely fair. And again, honestly, I don't know which way I would wager right now. Like, I feel like they have moved on from those stumbling blocks of last year, but we've got to see that now in action. They're going to have, all these things that they're doing. We got to see it in action still. That's, as I've said time and again, the biggest question that Marcus Freeman has to answer is, can you move past those kind of inexplicable losses and win the games that you're supposed to consistently, and then give you a chance in the big games as well.
Agreed.
Scale of 1 to 10. We were just talking about Olivia Miles. What's your confidence in Notre Dame women's basketball this weekend with no Miles on the floor?
I would say 10 out of 10, but there's always a chance. And when you're obviously down one of your best players, it increases to that chance. But I'm gonna set at a solid 9 out of 10. I have no doubt that they, that they're gonna lose this first game. I think that they're gonna handle their business
You mean
against
you have
Southern
no
Utah.
doubt they're going to win this first game?
Right. Sorry, I have no doubt about that. And then
I don't in reverse.
And Creighton and Mississippi State, not to get ahead of everything, but we're talking about this overall, first couple rounds here, this first weekend, getting to the Sweet 16. I give them a 90% chance of making the Sweet 16. Again, I don't think that Southern Utah is to be feared, and I don't think that Creighton and Mississippi State are to be feared. But once you start getting down into the Sweet 16, I think that that's where you're going to start to see.
That's where it'll change.
Or you're going to start to feel and hurt, Olivia Miles and what she brings.
Yeah. I mean, like Anthony says, snake bitten with injuries late in the season, truly believe they were a Final Four team had the injuries not occurred. I think they had a legit shot at being in the Final Four. Now, if they were placed in this exact same regional Final Four, again, because you got to go through South Carolina, I think that they could give South Carolina a game, at full strength, but faith that they could actually win that game this year right now. I mean, South Carolina is just so good and so long and so athletic, and it's just, my goodness, they're good. But we're talking about this weekend. I'm with you. I give them a 9 for this weekend. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup tomorrow because you obviously are now without one of your two best guards, and you like to run the floor, and Southern Utah has a couple of bigs, and they are like number 8 in the nation in block shots, and Zimmerman, one of the bigs, has 76 block shots. She's in the top 10 block shots in the country this season. So, like, typically, the way to avoid that is you run the floor more. I think that they're still going to try that, but because of the fact that you're down a guard, that also means you're going to have to play more bigs yourself. So it's going to be a curious, interesting matchup tomorrow to see what Notre Dame does to try to counter some of that. I feel good about tomorrow, though, still. And this is in the back of my mind still as well. Last year at the NCAA tournament in Oklahoma, UMass in the first round actually gave Notre Dame a better game than the host, Oklahoma, who is obviously a better seed. What Notre Dame is seeded, what were they? Yeah, they were a 4 seed. What they're seeded right now. So Notre Dame blew the doors off Oklahoma in that second game. It was UMass that gave them a tougher game in the first round. Creighton, again, they went to the Elite 8 last year. How much that plays into this year? 0, even though they've got some players back from that team. But I feel good about them this weekend getting to the Sweet 16. Which, Jesse, with March Madness going on, fortunately, we didn't lose any number 1 seeds today. Which number 1 seed do you have going out first in your bracket?
Um, so I like Houston a lot, and I like their region. I like Kansas's region, and I like what's the one that just played? Alabama. I like Alabama because I think that they have one of the top players in the country, and I know that it. To me, that's one of the biggest assets to have when it comes down to this to the one and done situations, because you have a guy who, yes, he might be inexperienced, but he's got all the talent in the world, and I think that that'll make up for a lot of the inexperience. So I like Bama, Houston, and Kansas. I have Purdue going out in the Sweet 16 to Duke. I am not a fan of Purdue, to be honest with you. And it's just, I'm not a fan of the way they play basketball, because I think that they rely on their 7'5" guy, and that's really all there is to their game. And he's not even a skilled 7'5" guy. He's 7'5" and
That's
just drops the ball over
classic
people.
post. That's right.
And so, and they have inexperience in their guards, young guards. And so I think if a team can figure out a way to shut down, their big guy, 7'5" guy, I think that they'll start to panic. And they don't, kind of what we saw against Penn State in that game towards the end in the Big Ten championship, is they felt a little bit of the pressure, and they're not even comfortable with him being on the court the entire game. They will take him out literally possession by possession if a team has, good perimeter shooting, because he can't guard the perimeter, being how big and not mobile he is. So I just think if you shut down his game, they kind of become one-dimensional. And again, their guards are young, and I don't think that their guards could shoulder the load with him, potentially having a bad game. So I feel the worst about Purdue.
Very good breakdown. I don't need to add a lot more to it. That's who I have going out first as well. I think of the number one seeds, most people, had the least confidence in Purdue. You said you've got him going out to Duke. I've got him going out to Duke as well. So that means Duke will probably, lose in the second round or get knocked
Quit
off.
copying me.
5-12 upset. That's right. We both got the exact same thing going. I'll just tell you this. You see, I've got my Kansas shirt on, and I would not have had this on, based on the way the first half went against Howard today. Rod Bolanis, the former Notre Dame assistant coach for Mike Bray on the Howard staff and helping Howard into the NCAA tournament. But it was I was thinking, again.
Well, everyone knows Kansas. They have woes in the first round. They would have been it would have not surprised me if they would have messed around and only won that game by 4, 5, 6 points, and it really be tight the entire game.
Yeah. With this being the 5-year anniversary of Virginia falling to Maryland, Baltimore County, it was like, man, I don't know, but I was fairly confident that once they hit a run, they would be okay, and that's exactly what happened. So things worked out all right, but you broke it down. I can't say anymore. Purdue, I think, will be the first one out. Although I will say this, I do wonder, I always like Alabama, for example, that team that just came on the scene in 1 year. There have been instances like this of some other teams over the years who get that 1 or 2 seed and end up getting knocked out early because they don't have that tournament experience. I know they're very talented and all that, but I do wonder, because of their lack of real tournament experience, could they be ripe for an upset themselves? So I've got that in the back of my mind. Howard has a couple talented players. They do. They showed a little bit more athleticism than I thought they would today. Kansas played Notre Dame for the college football championship. Who do you cheer for? Well, of course I'm going to cheer for one of them. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky says he uses his shower towel at least 30 times before he washes it. How many times do you use your towel before it goes to the laundry, Jesse?
My number is pretty on par with Dan Orlovsky's. I think I wash my towel just about once a month, and we can have a healthy debate about this. I've had this debate with we
can have a debate. I don't know if it's a healthy debate if you're doing it once a month.
So I was at a friend's house. I was at a friend's house a few months ago, And I remember him and his parents were talking about this exact conversation. And he was actually the one. He likes to wash his towels every day. Like he's got like 7 towels 1 day per week, and he washes them after one use. And his parents actually were the ones who rarely wash theirs. But my logic is you go into the shower, you wash off with soap, you get clean, you rinse it all off. So theoretically, you should be coming out of the shower clean. You're just basically drying that clean water off of you. So I have no issue with, not washing the towel as regularly. I kind of just look for an odor, to be honest. If my towel starts to get a little, stenchy or starts standing up on its own, then I know it's time to wash it. But I'll go probably a good month between washing.
That is, I agree with what Tommy is saying. Once a week would be about it for me. Like, and you know how this household operates with your mom around here. It's
I
like
just
they
say
get washed.
your guys' towels get washed every day.
Yeah,
So
well, not quite that often, but at least a couple times a week they're going in the laundry. But like if it was just me, it would be at least a week in between changing towels. It would be right around a week. A month, that's pushing it. It's like I got another towel in the closet. Come on. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Notre Dame's Brooks Coetzee was hit by pitch 4 times in a game yesterday, including with the bases loaded to bring in the game-winning run.
it's insanity that he was hit 4 times, and especially the one that matters the most, a walk-off hit by pitch. And if I'm the other team, I'm probably fuming, saying this guy's just standing over the plate trying to get hit. I mean, if you're getting hit 4 times in a game and no one else is getting hit, I don't know. Like I remember him. He's a tall, lanky guy. He crowds the plate.
Yeah.
And he's got long legs and arms, and so it's advantageous for him. But if I'm the other team, I'm pissed. Like I'm like, this guy is leaning over. He's not trying to get out of the way. He's looking to get hit. And then you start looking at the stats. He got hit 16 times last year in 58 games. He's gotten hit 16 times already
this year. Yeah.
And it's only been 14 games. So he averages over 1 hit by pitch per game, which is insanity to me. But
he leads the nation, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hating against it. You're getting on base. The on base percentage is going up. And for a team that has a pretty bad batting average right now, I'll take
it.
I'll take base runners any way. And
yep.
A walk-off can be a hit. It can be a swinging third strike. It could be a hit by pitch. It could be a sac fly. It could be a suicide squeeze. Whatever you got to do to get that run in, I really don't care. I just think it's crazy that he was hit 4 times in one game.
Whatever it takes, baby. Whatever it takes. It's like, I love the mentality. And what's amazing, he's obviously had to have changed his approach, this year to have been hit, as you said, 16 times last year in 58 games and already 16 times in just 14 games this season. But I love it. I can remember coaching a game once. We had the bases loaded and, kid at the plate, 2 outs. And, the tying run is at third base with the bases loaded. And instead of maybe lingering a little bit in the batter's box, the kid jumps out of the way of the pitch and then strikes out on the next pitch. Those kind of things infuriate me. And, in college, you see more guys, they don't have a problem leaning into one. Now they've changed the rules a little bit, so you're not supposed to, and he'll get a reputation. They'll start watching him a little bit more closely. But I'm sure you remember Brett Lilly from back in the day, right?
Oh, yeah. He loved that stuff.
He was Brett Lilly, former Notre Dame infielder. This is from kind of the early 2000s. He played, I want to say like 05 to 08, maybe something like that. He played for both Maneri and Dave Schrag. Brett Lilly hit by pitch 109 times in his Notre Dame career. He was the NCAA career hit by pitch leader when he left Notre Dame in 2008. I believe that record has since fallen, but Brett, like, he had a strategy, man. Like, he knew, like, based on count, he he would shift around in that batter's box. And, like as soon as it got to 2 strikes, he's up in the front of the box and he's crowding the plate and all these different things and sticking that hip into it. He had no problem with it. I loved it. I loved it
As
myself.
long as as long as to me, as long as the fastballs aren't getting you on like the elbow, forearm, arm
Right.
area,
Still got to
I'm
find the
okay
meaty
with
spot. That's right.
I'm good with sticking the hamstring out there. I'm good with taking one into the back. But when we start talking, like joints specifically, that's where I start to draw the line. But you can hit me on
Right.
my hamstrings and thighs and back, but if we start coming towards the head, elbow, knee, ankle area, I'll be dodging those ones.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of hit by pitch, a Japanese pitcher hit a Czech Republic hitter in the leg with a 100-mile-per-hour pitch the other day during the World Baseball Classic. And then, as apparently is Japanese custom, the Japanese pitcher apologized by giving this guy 2 bags of candy. There's like a bag, there's a picture of these guys. He's holding 2 sacks of candy. It's like it's Halloween or something. What kind of candy would you give if you were making, a gesture like this?
First I just want to kind of talk about this tradition because I think it's great because I think so many times now, as soon as a guy gets hit or a ball is anywhere kind of close, sometimes brushes a guy back, the immediate thought is this guy is trying to hit me or this
Someone's gonna
guy's
fight. Yeah.
there's always animosity. And so I just like this because I think it proves that no one's trying to hit anyone, and especially
That's not what you told me the other day.
well, I could see clear intent.
Okay.
But in situations where it's competitive baseball, guys are these pitchers are trying to work in and out, trying to get their favorable spots. I think majority of the time pitchers aren't trying to hit someone, and when they do, I do think they genuinely feel bad, especially when you're throwing 100 miles per hour. And so I like that. I just thought that was cool. But in terms of candy, I'd break it down. I'd want 1 sweet, I'd want 1 sour, and so I'd go with Reese's as my sweet. And then for my sour, I like sour worms, gummy worms.
I like it.
So
I like it.
That would be my 2 bags of candy if I had the choice.
I think you're absolutely right. Reese's, I was thinking maybe like Milk Duds or something like that as well. And then you do have to have something set. You can't have like all chocolate, like you said, sweet. You got to have like some Skittles or Starburst, some Twizzlers,
Something more
something
fruity
like
or
that.
sour.
Yeah. Or you just go to the candy aisle and you rate it and you get like all kinds of jumbo boxes, like the movie boxes, like when you go to the store before you go to the movie and you don't want to spend $20 for a couple boxes of candy. So you get it before you go. You just go to that movie aisle and you throw it all in there. But I agree with what you're saying. I think it's a pretty cool custom. And I guess it just shows really how different the mentality is like in Japan compared to here in the States with what you were talking about with the pitchers and stuff like that. Everyone assumes intent right away. And I agree. More times than not, there's not intent. I'm not saying no one's ever getting thrown at, because there are plenty of guys who are intentionally getting thrown at. But I think it's a pretty cool little custom.
I have per tradition now. I've started coming with my own questions, and I'm not giving you any warning. What do you
Okay.
have? What do you have better? Okay, how do I word this? What do you feel more comfortable with? Notre Dame women's making it to the Elite Eight, or Kansas men's making it to the Elite Eight?
Ooh, man. I would have to look. You know what? I've got both of them going.
This is a tough one because
I know.
on paper it should be Kansas, but they just do things in the tournament. It's either they are all in and go to the Final Four national championship, or they're getting outed in the Sweet 16. So I thought this was a good question considering where both teams are kind of at right now.
I've got a little more confidence in Kansas just because, assuming Maryland gets to the Elite Eight as well, there are no upsets along the way. Again, like that game went right down to the wire when they played at Purcell back in December. Do I think Notre Dame can win that game? Absolutely. But I think that's a toss-up game once you get there. So, and I think the path, not having the Kansas bracket off the top of my head, I think I've got them fairly easily getting to the Elite Eight. And that's where, like, I think, who would it be? Like UCLA, potentially, I think that they would match up with as the number 2 seed in that region to get to the Final Four. So that's where I think that it gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah, so the 3 in their side, looking at, or sorry, the 4, it would be UConn. So
And I've
yeah,
got
I mean,
them actually getting bumped, I think, early.
same. And I, for anyone out there, that UConn spread is crazy insane. 9.5 points against Iona. Rick Pitino
Wow.
runs a very nice, not very nice, but they run a full court press. They're
Mhm.
very good at the half court defense. So if you want some free money, I would take UConn 9.5 spread betting. Because I think that game is going to be, or sorry, Iona 9.5 spread betting. So I think that's going to be a lot closer than that.
Thanks for pointing that out. I hadn't seen that yet. I made another parlay today that's probably already been shot.
Oh, I threw out some parlays early on the 2 early games, Virginia Furman and West Virginia Maryland. I parlayed Maryland and Virginia to win. That went 1 for 2. And then I parlayed the overs in both games, and that went 1 for 2. And surprisingly, the over that hit was the Virginia game. And I was just like, I thought that was kind of crazy. But yeah, I've missed both of my parlays so far today. But I did place this pretty cool bet. It was a boost on FanDuel. All the 1 seeds to win by 10 or more points. And so far I'm 2 for 2. So hopefully these last 1 seeds can get it done.
I wish I would have seen that. I did not see that before the tournament started today. And let me look here and see what I've got. Of course. Let me see. Yep.
Just hit the settled button.
Hold it. I had Charleston plus 5.5. They lost by 6 points.
That's tough. I picked Charleston to go to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And that's done.
Yep. So there you go. Well, I guess my other options are still out there, so maybe I'll throw Iona in something. Who knows? All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Again, I'm not sure if there's going to be a rapid fire show tomorrow. If there is, it will be without me because I'll be doing the Notre Dame women's game at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon at Purcell Pavilion. I'll see you over there if you're over there. In the meantime, of course, have a happy St. Patrick's Day. Almost forgot I was wearing my
That's a nice hat.
St. Patty's Day. I just got this new era. I bought it some new era stuff a while back, and so now I get texts and emails from them all the time. And this was a special that they came out with last week, so just got it.
Very nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good one, and we will talk to you next week on IB Nation Sports Talk.